Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Under Construction. This is episode number... I actually don't know, because I closed out the page. We didn't have any comments, so I closed the page out. That was a mistake. Oh well, here we are. It's episode whatever. And this week, we're gonna be working on... well, everything under the sun, really. We need to make a catalog of what we need to do. It's been a couple weeks since I've touched the route. I got super busy around Christmas, and there were a couple things that came up that I'd actually like to talk about later, because I think it's important that I say them out loud, and say them to as many people as I can, because they are important. So, yeah, I just haven't been around very much, and I haven't had the opportunity to do a lot of the route building that I am used to doing. So, this episode, I think we're going to have a typical hour and a half of random work, and then about 30 minutes or so of placing trees, because that's what needs to be done. I don't know if... I mean, we'll obviously be taking steps to get a little farther today. I don't know how much farther we're going to get. I want to make this construction site better. That's one of the things on my list. Another thing is to continue ramping up Lionhead. Now that we have a lot of the grass around here, it means we can bring in trees over this way. We can also do some grass and stuff around here. Let's just see what our standard is. It's just the regular grass. Yeah. Alright, that's fine. That's doable. What's the next step? What are the next things we have to do? I mean, we have to keep coming this way. We have to get through the tunnel. We have this whole area, which probably is going to be one of the last things we do. One of the other things, though, after these S-curves... what the heck? How come it's not coming through my headset? Alright, whatever. That's weird. Let me just turn that right down. That was definitely weird. We have to do the line along here. One of the things I would like to do is actually add a road on this side of the river. Because there kind of should be one. This road is impeded by the big hill over by Doe Cliff. Or you could say the cliff. There should at least be a road to Doe Cliff, like to here. But it really should go the whole way. I could see it not because of this here, and it really only needs to be a gravel road. But we do need to have a road. We do definitely need a road. So, you know, that's something for us to work on. I realized while I was working on the history, I was like, of course there's going to be a road down this side of the river. Why would there not be? So, yeah. Let's see, what else do we have to do here? Now, this area is all pretty much done. We have to do some stuff around the backside here. This is going to be trees in here. This is going to be trees. This area needs work. This needs work. This block needs work. And I mean, I gave some grass to the things that are going to be grass. And then everything else is going to be trees. But we need to get to that. We need to do the grassy edges and stuff. We also need to get this road up the river. Oh, we need to get the river up the river. Ooh, I didn't even realize we didn't do that yet. That's not good. I should not have done that. Also, this should be like a lock and not this waterfall. I kind of made a mistake there. I need to check my map again, but it really should be a lock. This island, I think we need some stuff on. We still need a bridge here. I'm just taking stock of everything that's going on. I think some of these areas came out pretty well, although we need more random stuff in here. Maybe like a derelict crane along the waterfront. You know what? Maybe we could use some rusty rails for that. But all in all, I think this little goods terminal came out fairly well. It's one of the nice... I think it went together very well. It was kind of thrown together, but I think the result there was good. I do like this town and the way it came out a lot. I kind of want to put some other things in this park, though, or this thing. Maybe I was thinking I could add like a slip or something for the thing here. I was also considering maybe making this a patch of concrete and then adding the grass over top of that, but I don't really want to. Something I want to do, though, is see if any of these... Oh, that's the wrong thing. It's the wrong button. Damn, I really wanted to see if I could roll these guys very subtly, so that I could have, like, a... You know, just like a building that's sinking into the ground, because that would make a lot of sense for why this area isn't a, Oh, whoops. Oh, whoops, I'm trying to sink it. What am I doing? Yeah, if this stuff is sinking into the ground a little bit, that makes it look a little worse. The other thing I can do is maybe like a ruined something or other. Out here. If that makes sense. The other thing that I want is an actual pump station. Like, I feel like this area is too empty. If you guys have ideas on what to do with this area, you know, I could have put the factory here instead of up there. That might have been smart, but we've got this thing up here instead. Oh well. Never too many factories for this place. Runway number. Runway? Like a whole runway? Anyway. Right, let's actually do something instead of just talking about doing things. So, I kind of wanted to work up there, but since I'm up here, or since I'm down here, I might as well do some of this work. I know that these guys need to look like this, so let's first do our Erba pass, because now we should have this pretty much down to a science now. There's no excuse for us to have it take forever, or have it take much deliberation. And there are some areas, if you look on maps of towns and stuff, it is funny how some areas are just like, oh, you know, they never put any buildings there. Or something. This was... I mean, we can say that this was supposed to be built up to something, and then it wasn't. I could even write about that in the history. You know, maybe the munitions plant was supposed to be over there, and then they decided to put it up on the hill. That would actually kind of make sense. So, let me grab... Where did that dirt go? Here we go. Like, I'm using ballast from 09. Oh, we need... There we are. We do want to have some driveways here for these guys. And so, it's a sensitive subject, I'll be honest. I don't know how a lot of YouTubers do it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people do it for the sake of drama. And this is a lot of pretext for what I'm about to say. But I ended up in kind of a dark place after Christmas. The party went off without a hitch, and I was actually really, really happy about that. We had basically my whole father's side of the family over, because that was part of the agreement when I got this house, is you host Christmas Eve. And I don't want to give that up, and I wouldn't give it up for the world. But I wasn't seated right after a lot of time being stressed out about a lot of things, mostly related to the house. And so, that had compounded and compounded and compounded, and like too many other people, I just sort of wrote it off. Like, well, it's not that big of a deal. You know, I might have some trouble one day or the other, but it's not a big deal. You know, I can deal with it. I can go from one day to the next. And most of the time it wasn't a big deal, but sometimes it was, and it was really starting to get in the way of my life. So, if things get a little bit spotty with videos and such, like they have, assume that I've taken a step back for a little while. I don't think I'm going to like go on hiatus or anything. I don't think I need to. But I am probably going to start seeing somebody to, to have a therapist or psychologist or somebody to talk to. And I bring this up like it's such a big deal, but for a lot of people it is a big deal. Not like, oh, it's, a therapist is nothing. There's nothing worth, bringing up about that. What I mean to say is, a lot of people treat it like it's almost like it's taboo. And I need to start practicing what I preach, so I'm going to start preaching and then practicing. Which is that your mental health is important. If you go to a school and they have counselors on staff and you're having trouble because your studies are getting to you or something like that, go talk to someone. It might not work the first time. You might not get somebody you mesh with really well, and it might be hard. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be driven insane by things that you ultimately can control. So, that's my short PSA, and that's my airing my thoughts to the world. And I know I haven't even really done it to most of my friends. I haven't said it to most of my friends. But I have tried for so long to live like a perfect life. Or to act like it, at least. Like, oh, things, yeah, woe is me, some things happened, but like, no, I'm alright. I'm a rock, I lived through it. But nobody is an island like that, really. I mean, despite what Simon and Garfunkel might tell you. So, the important thing is, sometimes you can't deal with it on your own, and sometimes you need help. And sometimes you need help more than just what your friends can give you. Because there's only so much that a person can handle, especially if that person isn't trained. So, while it's good to talk to our friends, and we should talk to our friends, I'm not discounting that by any means. I think, and this is me being a futurologist or whatever, I think in the future we're going to see a lot more people that just sort of casually see therapists and that sort of thing. It's becoming less and less of a big deal, and that is a good thing. And I am, I try to be a role model, a poster child in everything that I do, which is part of my problem. But I hope that if there are people out there that are thinking about themselves and they get real down from time to time, that they'll hear what I'm saying and they'll think, maybe I should see somebody too. And it's not like I'm jumping in to, arguably I'm doing much worse, but it's not like I'm jumping into seeing a therapist like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to go down the street, the nearest therapist I can get, and we're going to talk things out, and things are going to be good. No, I want to do things right. And I want to get, like, a psych eval, and see if if they have, like, some sort of diagnosis. I don't really want to be, I'm not saying I don't want to be medicated, because medication's helpful, but I would rather do something that's not medication, if at all possible. But we never know. A lot of the times we live with these sorts of low-grade, what you might call invisible diseases, which is sort of a weird term, but it's a term. And, we might function outwardly fine in our daily lives, and then a couple of people that know us are like, well, he has trouble with a lot of things, with this, that, and the other. Or she. Not exclusive to men. Worth pointing out that sometimes it can be worse for men, because people think they're supposed to be, again, a rock and island, very stoic, not disturbed by anything, and not shaken by anything, and, whatever. Why men need a break and all that, but it isn't something specific to any sex or gender or race or religion or anything. It's something that it's the pain and suffering that unites us all. And, we can treat it that way, and we can admit that, we're not perfect people, and we need to talk out our problems, and we need to work on our problems, and we need to do this, and we need to do that, and I hate falling into this and that. It's best to give examples, and when you run out of examples, you run out of examples. So stop trying to force it. But it is an important thing nonetheless. And it is something that I am not trying to take lightly. It's not something that I'm just throwing out there like Like, hey, guess what, guys? Your quirky YouTube host is gonna go to therapy. No, it's a serious thing, and it should be treated that way. And I hope that everyone listening can acknowledge that and can think about it that way, because we might not all have families that agree with that. And, you know, maybe some people think it's too progressive, or maybe some people think it's too, like, wimpy or something like that. And some people are just too proud themselves to do it, and I'm one of those people, and I was one of those people, and hopefully I can continue to not be one of those people now that we've gotten to the point where I'm actually willing to attempt this. But I am far from perfect. And I'm not living a perfect life. And I'm not living... You know, I would say I'm living a good life because I've got a lot of things, but I'm not living a good life in my head. So, it's important. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Even me. Especially not me. Because I will. Or I would have. Possibly. I mean, I would have maybe told somebody else that, yes, no, absolutely, that's a problem. But I would have told myself, no, I can deal with this. This is something that I can deal with. It's my problem, I can deal with it. That's not healthy. Don't do that. And don't listen to that. Don't take that for granted. Don't, no. I need the sheep grass. Whatever grass I use for the sheep. Don't run from that. Because it's important to not. It's important to accept that sometimes there are actually things wrong with us. And, you know, it's easy to look at a diagnosis, especially if it's something, like I said, relatively invisible, and go, yeah, but I'm fine, I can, you know, I made it through this day, I can make it through the next day. But we can be better, and hopefully I'll be able to talk about this, you know, a few months down the line and say, hey, you know, I've done this, and I've done this, and I've improved, and I want everyone to hear me, and to listen, and to, you know, to get on this bandwagon. I want to be like, Oprah. You know, you get a therapist, and you get a therapist, everyone gets a therapist. That's not a bad idea, really. But honestly speaking, I would like to inspire some people with this. And it's not like you guys have watched my descent into madness or something. It's not like you guys have listened to me lose my mind every video. You know, it's easy enough for me to say I keep it on wraps while I'm on air. And when I'm not feeling it, then I just don't come on air. You know, some videos got skipped. I mean, a lot of videos got skipped because I was just busy. But some videos got skipped because I just wasn't feeling like it. I wanted to give a good experience to everyone. I'm not a vlogger, you know? I've done a couple of things. You guys know the timetable exists and has existed, and it pops in and out. And I do some live streams where I talk about whatever. But it's not like I'm sitting down and talking about my daily life all the time. When I come here, I share amusing anecdotes, which I have one of Madison totally throwing me under the bus in front of my grandfather, which I was then redeemed on because I'll get to it. But actually, I should wait for her to come here. So she's out to eat, and she might come back. And I said, "Will you come back? Can you sit with me?" And she was like, "Sure." So she might make an appearance. So I might want to save that story. The long and short of it is that we were at a thing. She wanted to light a candle. I didn't want to light a candle because they were expensive. And she made a good point. And I was like, "Don't you sucker me into this." Those are my exact words, according to her. And then she recounted that story to my grandfather. So, and it was for him. So, you know, not great. But then he found out the price of the candles. I just want to... I'll go into more detail later. So... come on. I hate it when it does this. So, let's get this up a little closer to the track. I just want to fill in the holes, you know? Oh, you know what I should do? I should really have a road that goes across here, because how do you get to this? That's something to pay attention to, and it's easy to get, this is talking more on the subject now, on the subject of route building, like we're supposed to be. I'll come back to the vlog thing later, because I feel like it's an important comparison / statement to make. Alright, 50-50 shot. And we're wrong. We're always wrong. I'm always wrong. I can't do anything right. Not really. So, who lives in a pineapple under the sea? When you're building an industrial park, like this, something you're going to want to pay attention to is the buildings. Not just the buildings, though, the access to the buildings. Because if you have a park, take, I mean, this is a good example because now we have access to everything. But take the olive forestry. How do workers get to the forestry exactly? There is like a bunkhouse there, so clearly they live out there. But, come on. It's 3 miles outside of a relatively major town. Why would they live out there? Shouldn't they be going out there, you know, by train or something? There isn't even a road. And therein lies the problem with what I built out there. Which is, I didn't think about the road network while I was doing it. And there are a lot of areas in here where I didn't think about the road network while I was doing it, and that is not good. I need to do a better job at that, even though I think I do a relatively good job at it, like an above average job of it, because I do spend quite a while deliberating on it. I definitely don't do a perfect job of it. Not that I ever am, but we can get closer. So, when I go and build industrial parks, not just industries, that are spread out, I need to make sure that I provide road access to all of them, at least as best possible. So, and I do mean to every individual building, for the most part. I mean, if there's a parking lot and then you can walk to the building, yeah, that's different. But the Olive Industrial Park itself, the Butler F. Seahawks Industrial Park, that has a road going to or alongside every building. That's sort of what I should be going for. It's what everyone should be going for, I think. That's a realism thing, so I always leave my little asterisk on those, and I say, you know, you don't have to do this. There's nobody telling you what a train's route has to be. I mean, if you want to submit it to get route reviewed, yeah, there are some things that would make me happy. But at the end of the day, you're making a route to make a route, and you can make it however you want. I'm just trying to provide notes for people that are looking to make relatively realistic routes that are similar enough to Tolbrand that my advice is actually worth something. I can't provide every iota, but I can try and give some people some good ideas, and that's what I want to do. So, give me this. So, this is a little administration building. That's the other thing. So, you need to be careful of all these different kinds of buildings. Something that you're going to want to do if you're building a complex of any kind is go and look at the real thing. Whether that be historical imagery or actual physical, real-life industrial parks, which you can find. They're around, even if you're in the U.S. Industry isn't totally dead. So, you can find industrial parks out there that you can use for, well, I mean, all sorts of nefarious purposes, but mostly for taking notes. Let me get that. Alright, which way did we do it before and we got it wrong? I think we did it left to right. Or, like, up. And that was wrong, so let's do it down. Yeah. That's what we call memory. Some other things that you want to pay attention to. See, the road thing is a kind of big and important thing, and I don't think it's too much detail to worry about. I mean, maybe the driveway entrances is a bit much, especially if you're using something that doesn't have, uh-oh. Who wants my attention? Especially if you're using... Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Chris just found something on Wish. And it's not good. It's like a pee hose. That's the only way I can think to describe it. I was wondering why somebody pinged me. I'm not like Graham. I don't read about pings. They're important. They're useful. But oh, what the hell was I saying? People gotta get places. Roads are not too much detail. When you're building something, pay attention to the roads. That's the long and short of what I'm saying. Now I can be done dancing around the subject. Make sure people can drive to their works, to their homes, between towns, everything like that. If your road is all in the backdrop, that's fine too. But if you're doing that, make there be a good reason that the road goes that way and doesn't follow the train tracks. Now, there are two good reasons, possibly, for that sort of thing. One, it was way easier than the route the train tracks took, because the train tracks have to wind their way up mountains and things like that. And two, it was... Wait, no. I said it backwards. One, it was way harder, as in it was steeper grades and stuff like that. So, yeah, they didn't want to follow the railroad tracks because the railroad tracks went a way that was relatively inefficient for a road. So they decided that it was best to go their own way. And just like Fleetwood Mac, they were able to power up the mountains and go more directly. That is one of the most common, if not the most common. The second most common, I would argue, is that it is a easier route than what the railroad tracks took. Again, because there were, in this case, I would think because there are things that the railroad could afford to cross that the road could not, especially if you're talking about a very old road. A lot of these older roads, they will go all across the universe to avoid a river or something. Avoid crossing a river at one particular point. And for the railroad, it'll only really make sense to cross the river there. So they will cross the river there, and they'll pay through the nose to build a bridge. Or across the mountains here, and they'll pay through the nose to build a tunnel. These are the kind of things that make sense. So it's either because there was something in the way of the road, or because there was something in the way of the railroad, and the railroad had to take a more circuitous route, or the road decided to take a more circuitous route. The third reason I can actually think of, because I thought of this as we went, the third reason I can think of is a little different, and it is that the population centers dictated that the road went a different way. Now, whether that means that the railroad is going a dead straight line and is trying to get from point A to point B and is then avoiding a lot of the smaller towns, and this only typically happens with newer rail lines, but you can see it happening in New England as early as like the 1850s or 40s, because they're building some of these railroads and they want to get between major population centers, if the population centers are old enough, to be there, to be established when the railroad comes to town. And they decide to take the shorter route instead of going the one that will go through the most populous areas. Or this competition, the railroad is going that way because their rival has already taken the route that's near the road. This is best exemplified in the New York and New England building their airline, which ran approximately from New York to Boston, and it ran a sort of back way through the woods and through the hills. It was a difficult route, but it did rival the New Haven because it was more direct. It could not make as much money as the New Haven though, because it was just that much harder and more difficult to maintain. So the New York and New England eventually gave up and was purchased by the New Haven. So they became the very thing they sought to destroy, and the air line was then eventually abandoned in favor of the line along the coast, the shoreline, which survives today as Amtrak's Northeast Corridor. Part of the airline survives as a trail and some as spur lines, but that trail in particular and those lines are nowhere near anything. They hit a couple of major population centers on the way, but really, they don't hit much. If you want to see them, you have to go into the woods. And it's not like, it's not like you can go to a major town and find evidence, except for, like, Middletown, where it crosses the Connecticut River, because that's, that was major and important enough that it got its, Middletown was there, and they decided to build the bridge there because the town was established there. So, yeah, there are reasons that you would see these lines coincide with towns, but secondary lines that are built to rival another railroad are often built using less efficient routes, less efficient paths. And, yeah, you can see that. You can see that. Let me do this real quick. Hold on. There we go. I like that. I do like doing that instead of the crossing boards sometimes. Alright, look, we made it up to here. That is a really good thing. We've got this section to fill in. And I guess this island. And then we can start working on this side of the river. Zoom out a little bit. How come when I zoom out that far, things go completely berserk? I really like this town. I don't know if I like it more or less than Olive, but it's definitely one of my favorite towns I've ever made. For reasons. What is this? Oh, never mind. It's definitely one of my favorites because it's well put together, We've got industrial, we've got commercial, we've got residential. They're all together. There's a decent balance. Maybe there isn't enough residential, but this town is not meant to be a residential heavy town. Whereas the other town is a little bit more residential and it doesn't have a lot of commercial. You could think I'm talking about Olive or Mason's Landing. Technically, I was talking about Mason's Landing, but Olive that applies to as well. I'm spending more time admiring than I am building, and that's kind of a problem. I did do this, I think I did this last episode, or I did it between episodes. I did get distracted from my life and decided to go and work on this area, but yeah. No, I am super duper happy with this. I need to delete these guys, though. They need to go. This needs to get filled in, too. This needs to get, what is this? Is this a farm? Is this a farm plot? Does it need to get grassed? Yeah, it does. It does need to get grassed. Because the farmhouse is right here, isn't it? If you want to show it to me, there you go. Alright, so let's fill this in because we're here. And that means I can actually fill in all of this. So it's going to be a lot of little things and a handful of big things that are left on this map for us to do. I mean, obviously, that sounds pretty obvious and pretty straightforward, but it does mean that if you look at this for open spaces, you've got up here, which is pretty much all trees. You've got here, which we're about to fill in, here, which we're about to fill in, this, which I'm pretty sure is trees, and this, which I'm pretty sure is trees. So almost all of the gray is trees, which is how it's been from the beginning, but we've got almost all of the stuff that abuts it done. And that is something to celebrate. Merry Christmas, to me, we did it. Or we're doing it, at least. Alright, so along here... By the way, if you guys have any heavy thoughts or constructive criticism or whatever, I mean, people are welcome to talk to me. just to talk to me. If you really need someone to talk to, I will gladly do that. You can get me on Discord. I'm sure you guys know by now. But at the same time, if you guys have something that you just want to air, that you want to say, you'll get my commentary on a little bit, but if you don't really want my commentary on it, you just want it to be voiced by somebody, you can put it in the comments and I'll say it. And, what's the word? Advice is like candy. You can have too little, but you can never have too much, even though it's not accurate at all. Speaking of which, where's my candy? Oh, it's over here. So, fun story time. Let me eat this peppermint thing, and then I'll get back to what I'm doing. Fun story time. Madison doesn't like the peppermint Junior Mints. And we went to her house for Christmas, which, I mean, they're Jewish, but they celebrate Christmas too. We went to their house for Christmas, and I got some candy, and she got some candy, and one of the things she got in candy was the peppermint Junior Mints. And I saw them, and I was like, I need those. I need some. Give me some. And, because I'm a fatty. Obviously she was like, no, it's my candy. You got your own. And I was like, I did get my own, but I also want yours. Her younger brother, her youngest brother, I guess, because they're both younger brothers. She's the oldest. Drew, he gave me some, because they just had them out on the table. But I was like, I need more. These are crack. And so I ground some up and snorted them. No. What happened was, we finally get back home, and on the way back I'm talking about the gifts, and I'm like, oh, there's this. I got like a sweater thing, which I like in principle, but I'm never going to wear it, because it's not my thing. And then she's like, as soon as we get home, she's like, I don't really like these. And she just hands them out, and I'm like, oh, yes! And I just took them. It's like, yes, thank you. So they're mine now, and I'm eating them. I might save some of the rest of the candy, because we're going to the movies, hopefully in the next couple of days, to see the new Star Wars. I know it's kind of been a little lukewarm with people, but let's be honest, they were never going to get it right. And I don't mean that like they get it wrong. I mean that like, with the sheer number, with the sheer volume, and the sheer diversity of Star Wars fans, not just in who they are, but in their opinions on this, that, and the other thing, never was any studio, even with all the resources in the world, see, this is like the Half-Life 3 thing, never was any studio with all the resources in the world going to get the next Star Wars right. I can critique The Last Jedi until the cows come home, but I can also praise it until the cows come home. It was a very divisive movie. Some people liked it for this, some people hated it for this. I think it was pretty okay, and there were definitely some areas where it fell short. There were definitely some areas where I think it excelled. I think it was an amazing cinematic performance, just in terms of the sights and the sounds, because it's a Star Wars movie. That's what they do really well. They've never been that interesting plot-wise, let's be honest here, and The Last Jedi tried to do something relatively interesting plot-wise, and it didn't do it well because they made a lot of plot threads that didn't go anywhere, and it slowed the movie down, and despite the fact that the scenes on an island were interesting, they were just on an island compared to the rest of the plot, and I'm talking about the whole casino sequence, among other things. We can also critique the science in the movie that led to the Holdo maneuver. I like the Holdo maneuver just in principle. I don't think it made any sense necessarily. It calls into question a lot of things about the physics of the Star Wars universe, but so does, everything about the Star Wars universe. And what was the other thing? And, you can call the science of Star Wars into question day and night. It's a series where they went, we'll make this really cool thing, and then maybe we'll figure out how it works later. It's no Star Trek. Not saying Star Trek was great about all that stuff, but Star Trek definitely did the science part better than Star Wars. Again, they also didn't do the best job, but, at least they're relatively internally consistent, except for that whole Warp 10 thing. So, Yeah, let's not talk about that thing with the lizards and Janeway. So, oh, we made a Star Trek thing. Never mind, let's hide that. I was talking about Star Wars. Star Wars. Star Wars. There have been plenty of critiques thrown at The Last Jedi. I would agree that most of them are pretty fair, because it did a lot of things not so great. But there are definitely reasons to give it praise here and there. We need to fill this in with trees. I think that, other than the sights and sounds, which of course, again, fantastic. I think one of the things that The Last Jedi actually excelled at, I haven't seen the next one yet, like I said, so don't ruin it for me. There's the bridge. No spoilers in the comments. I think one of the things The Last Jedi did really well was actually the characters. I mean, there were quite a few to be had, but in particular, watching Kylo Ren and Rey sort of grow together and then apart because of the weird phenomena that was surrounding them, which I think I've already had some of that spoiled for me. I get that some of it gets explained in the last movie. I sort of made a mistake because I was chasing down people that were talking about the movie online, number 9, Rise of Skywalker, and thinking like, I want to find some spoiler for reviews so I can understand what's going to be good and what's going to be bad. Not that I like to go into movies with expectations, because I really don't. I like to just be enthralled by whatever's there. I haven't really been disappointed by any movie other than one. But even then, I enjoyed it for what it was. It was just, you come out of the theater and go, wow, that was not good. But, oh well. It was entertaining at least. Yeah, I was really excited and intrigued by how Rey and my doppelganger, from the neck up at least, really grew together and then fought together and then grew apart and then fought and then like all of that within the span of that film I thought was pretty good. It didn't seem like it was, I mean, the whole movie seemed slowed down, so it didn't seem rushed. But it did seem like you got that build up and you got that that really satisfying click moment of like, oh wow, they're doing it, it's happening. Not like they're doing it, even though, I wanted to see that, so did everybody else, but, I mean, fingers crossed for the 9th movie, nobody spoil it. It's rated R, right? Oh no, it's rated NC-17? Gotcha. No, tongue-in-cheek, of course. That was something that I really, really enjoyed, and it's something I keep coming back to because I keep thinking about it. Because I go, it's almost like it's something to strive for. I don't know. I mean, I got back into writing the Housatonic a little bit. Because I was trying to decompress, and I was trying to, I'll use up some time that I had at work because nobody was really around, and I had finished what I needed to do. And I always have the Housatonic open on my work computer, so I was like, let's look at this. Let's look at this and see where I was, because I haven't touched it in a little while. We'll see where I was, we'll see what I was thinking about, and we'll see if I was going in a good direction. We'll see if I can write a little bit more. And so, now when I think about this kind of character development, I tend to think about that movie, and I want to go back and rewatch it, because like so many other people, the internet has talked and talked and talked and talked about it. And I've heard it and heard it and heard it. And I hear this thing and I hear that thing. And you shouldn't, take a movie for what it is. Don't let people online ruin a movie for you if you went in and you enjoyed it. No matter how much criticism Battleship gets, I'm going to enjoy that movie. Because it's not a movie that you're there to critique. You're there to watch a battleship shoot at aliens, and also Rihanna is there. So, yeah, I love Battleship. So, anyway, That's neither here nor there. That's my tangent. That's my Battleship tangent. I feel like I can bring that movie up anytime I want. Yeah, don't let people on the internet ruin a movie for you. Don't agree on the consensus of whether a movie is good or bad until you have seen it, too. When the first reviews came out for Rise of Skywalker, you're like, oh man, it doesn't look like a good review. It got good reviews. People must not have liked it. Oh, that means it's bad. It's like, most of the people I've actually talked to that have seen it have been like, it was pretty good. It was good enough, And there are some people that didn't like it. But most of the people have given, maybe not rave reviews, but good enough reviews. Reviews of, it did a good job. And I think that's, with the amount of hype that has been built up, I think that is the best you can hope for unless you are Marvel Studios. Because, boy, do they have things down pat. I'm really looking forward to whatever they're going to whip out in the next couple of years, because it just keeps coming. Although I still need to see, like everything after the Avengers. Except for Thor Dark World, I guess. Although that's one of those things. I don't have my mind made up by the internet. That's just the circle jerk, isn't it? People don't like Thor Dark World. I don't know if I like Thor Dark World. I can't say anything about it. I haven't seen it. So, let's take what we've got and enjoy it however we can. I'm excited about Rise of Skywalker. Madison wanted to see it on Christmas Day, and I didn't think that was something that we could do, and it isn't, because we ended up being really busy. So, I'm glad I made that decision. But I do wish we had seen it. I would like to see it. Alright, this way. I don't want to, smear dirt all over everything. But that's kind of what's happening. The 5-meter grid is only so good. That's the thing. People keep talking about trains would be better if we moved away from the grid system for things. And yeah, but you'd be playing a different game at that point. The textures, they kind of have to be on a grid of some description. Because at a base level, there's always going to be a grid there. The thing that we're considering, or the thing that we're talking about, is the fidelity of the grid. How, I'm just going to have to put trees in here. Myself, manually. How detailed can we get it? And clearly the consensus is it's not detailed enough, but the 5-meter grid also tanks people's computers. So, I don't know. You have to draw a line there somewhere. Yeah, things seem a little better in 2019, but they're not better. They're still kind of iffy, especially with the 5-meter grid. So, the grass being pasteable, I guess, or drawable, is nice, but it's also on the grid, so it isn't the most helpful thing, but what are you going to do? It's going to be on a grid at some basic level. Computers work on that sort of system. If you want things to be not grid-like, they're going to have to be way higher fidelity, and Trains is going to have to figure out a way to handle that. Currently, it can't. Currently, it can't even get close. So, there's not a great solution right now, and I'm not sure we're going to just stumble across one without some very clever coders at N3V and Auron, if Auron still exists as a company. So, yeah. The grid is the grid, and we're going to have to deal with it, and we're going to have to live with its whims and its edges, its lack of curves and all its edges, and all its perfect imperfections. Is that an Ed Sheeran song? I don't know. No, who sings that song? I want to look it up. Hold on. All of Me. It's John Legend. Why did I think it was Ed Sheeran? There's the other song like that. That's Ed Sheeran. That's It's the other one. You guys know what I'm talking about. I hosted Horseman Radio today, and it's really fun, the, eclectic mix of songs that's in that playlist, because it's just the songs of the day. And, everyone is posting what they want to hear, or what they think would be funny, or whatever. And yeah, I veto some things. There are some things that definitely didn't make the cut, because I was like, that's not going in there. That's not a real song, or that's way too raunchy, or whatever. I mean, Enormous Penis is in there, and so is Big Dick, but at least they're pretending to be songs. Some of the things are just not good. And I wasn't going to include, Rappin' for Jesus. Even though people want to see it, I guess. So, something I could add more democracy to that as well if I really wanted to. We have the polls and votes channel, which is still going through teething, but, it's making things interesting in the Discord to hear what people want and to get real-time feedback on things and go forward from there instead of going, well, I'm going to do this thing, I hope people like it. Anyway, here's Wonderwall. I am glad for what we've found and for what I've created and what we've created. And going forward, I'm hoping that it keeps going, etc., blah, blah, blah. Obviously, the podcast has been spotty. The podcast, we are gaining on the 7th anniversary of the Zombie Train? Yeah. So I released that December 21st, 2012, which is, in my version of World War Z, that is the day of the Great Panic. And I released that video, and we're coming up on 7 years from them. We passed it a few days ago, and the podcast was actually supposed to be made on that day, and it didn't happen because people weren't around, because people were busy for Christmas, of course. And I was just like, oh, damn, that would have been great, because every year we do the Zombie Train Locomotive Versus. Now, Zombie Train Locomotive Versus is take an active steam locomotive, and we'll pit them against one another for, who's going to make the best zombie train engine this year. Last year, returning characters or characters that we know are Skookum has made an appearance, 765 has made a couple of appearances, 4501 has as well. The first year we did it, I think I took 3254, even though Blount was not running. It was just for comparison's sake. Both of the Valley Railroad engines, both of the Valley Railroad Mikados have made an appearance, but not the Consolidation, because it wasn't running as of last year, I don't believe. So, yeah, there's that. Yeah, it definitely wasn't. So that can make an appearance. I'm just thinking, there are a lot of engines that people can pick. It's got to be something running. It's got to be something standard gauge. And it's ideally not going to be something that's on a line in the middle of nowhere that doesn't connect to anything. So, the Malays that I reviewed or talked about on the Zombie Train a while ago are kind of out. The ones at the Black Hills Central, I think. So, yeah, those guys are out, unfortunately. But something like Strasbourg, those engines are a full go. Anything that's running at Steamtown, if something's running there. Anything that's operable. Hell, the 113 would be a candidate, if you really wanted to do it. See how well that thing does. It does have a wooden firebox. It'll steam better than just about anything else if you have to feed it weird stuff. But not an ideal locomotive, considering you can't get much over 30 miles an hour out of it. But, hey, it's the thought that counts. It's faster than the zombies, anyway. These are not fast zombies. These are the lurchy ones. Don't let the movie tell you otherwise. That's not what we dealt with during the war. The lurchy shambly type. The dead don't die type. Anyway. Alright, let's just keep going with this. Because we are almost wrapped up on this section of the edge of this, this field, which we've then got a grass, but I am liking it. The other thing I need to do is add cows. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them. I think what I will do is do a ton of blue push pins, and then throw in, and then copy over some cows, or replace them with cows, because then they'll have random orientations. Although I could always just do I almost called them flocks of cows, roving flocks of cows. The two-dimensional ones. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I'm thunking. It's gonna be an exercise in spreading them out properly, is what it's gonna be. So, hopefully it works. We're covering over another texture. The game doesn't like that. Come on. You can do it. Alright, so I've totally gotten sidetracked from some of my initial prospects of what to do today, but the fact that I noticed that this field wasn't filled in and now we've pretty much got it more or less squared away, I think is a good thing. The more, it's all got to get done. The more area I get done, the more area is done. So, there's not a problem with that. But it's just like, ooh, I wanted to work on towns today, and now I'm down here doing this. I should be working up by the construction site and up by Lionhead to try and get the area ready for trees, although it's ready for trees at least past Lionhead. Or at least up to the colliery. That's something that I can do. So, we're about to hit 2 hours, and I'm about to wrap this up, except for that one spot right there. So, I can go and do some grass up there, the other kind of grass, and hopefully we can have it ready in half an hour to do something a little bit more strenuous on the computer in the route. And the next week we can suffer because the game will be crashing every half an hour on the half an hour. After I do an episode where I copy paste things, the next episode should be like a live stream, because then if I crash, I can go, hold on, let me just get this back, and I can take questions live and stuff like that. This would do really well in a live stream format, and I think I've said before, the reason I don't do it is because I want to, I want to use this same footage for the zombie train, so it doesn't really make sense for me to do it in a live stream format, because then I'm broadcasting it and saving it, and my computer would not like that at all. So, yeah. How did I handle these edges in some of the other fields? Oh, you know what? Let's get the texture through the woods here while we're here. And we have way more texture work to do in these woods on this road. So, I don't know what I'm saying. Like, oh, this area is done. It's not done yet. It's not. It's not a tumor. Anyway, I got dots. It's actually, you know what? It's really funny now that I think about it. So, Drew gave me some candy, which I really appreciate. And apparently they asked Madison what my favorite candy was. So, they were like, Dots and Milky Way, which were two of the things that were in the candy bowl for Halloween. So I can see why those were my favorite, because I must have eaten like 1,000,000 of them. They're the reason I'm fat. And the reason that I had so many and ate so many isn't because I bought them for me, it's because that's what came in the variety pack we got for Halloween, and it was storming like mad on Halloween, so nobody came. So I basically had this giant bag of candy to myself, and there were Snickers, which I wasn't going to eat, and there were Milky Ways, and there were Dots, and there were... Oh, the Twix. Twix are the ones that I really like. Twix are probably my actual favorite candy. I like something that's crunchy, you know? I like something that I can, like, you know, sink my teeth into. And that's something that happened actually at a restaurant the other day. Not Twix, of course. But me wanting to sink my teeth into it. The waitress misinterpreted it as me wanting something that I could pick up and hold. And I was like, no, it's actually because I want to feel resistance on my mouth when I'm biting down. It was the difference between a pulled pork sandwich or a giant hot dog thing. And I was like, oh, you know, I was going to get, like, the buffalo chicken sandwich, and I was like, how hot is the buffalo? And she's like, it's pretty hot. I don't know why she sounds like that. She was like, it's pretty hot. And I was like, yeah, maybe I don't do that. I want to preserve my anus. Because I have a life hack from TJ that I want to share with everyone. Before I come back to that story, because now I'm going on a C story. C story is, TJ told me you could do the 2 for $5 at Wendy's and have both of the orders 10-piece spicy nuggets. That is one of the best things I've ever done, except for the next morning when it had to come out of me. Anyway, we were at this restaurant, and I was asking how big the hot dog was, because it was like $6. And I went, and I wanted some resistance on my teeth. So I was like, how big is the thing? And she's like, oh, it's pretty big. It's almost like a foot long. And I was like, yeah, but how big around is it? And she just, like, blushes, and is like, I don't think anyone has asked me about the girth of the hot dog before. And I was like, that's not the word I used, but okay. Inside I'm like, the girth of the hot dog. And she's like making like a circle with her fingers to show me how big this thing is. And I'm like, man, I can't compete with that. But yeah, so the hot dog, as it turns out, was... I mean, I've seen girthier. I've seen a girthier hot dog than what I shoved in my mouth. But it was good, so I'll take it. Alright, I know I said I'd do grass up there, but I'm going to continue with the theme of working down here when I say I'm not going to. And doing the edges of the field. At least the ones that I can do. This edge I still need to do, but I guess I can do from here out. Although that grass is probably fine the way it is. I need to do the edge along the road. And then the edges of the road in between the two fields. I love it when stuff comes together organically, though. One of the things that this map does that I really haven't done on many other maps is it lets things happen. On a lot of other maps, I had pretty strict ideas about what would go where. And I had the yards all mapped out, and I had the towns and the stations all mapped out, and I knew where everything was going, and I knew where the hills were, I knew where the ups and the downs were. That was for Geiger Mountains, I knew where the ups and the downs were. And now, I'm sort of leaving a lot to my imagination in the moment. I have a very rudimentary map of the way the railroad is supposed to go. But I'm leaving a lot of things not just to imagination, but also to happenstance. The whole thing with Jefferson's Cut and the... everything, really. The tunnels that we have, the bridges, the cuts and embankments, because I've been doing the scenery, or because I've been doing the terrain, rather, first, it means that my track work ends up being dependent on that instead of something else, instead of being predetermined by yours truly. Which, yeah, it presents some problems, because sometimes I'll totally screw myself over. Like, there's an area up the way that I call Slop Ridge. And, yeah, haha, it's called Slop Ridge. What a weird and dumb name. It's called that because I got sloppy and accidentally built a ridge that I then had to get over. I didn't want to have to build a ridge. I wanted it to be relatively level and empty and flat, but I kept adding ground, and I get to the point where I was like, oh, I should stop, because I gotta put a train through this, huh? And, yeah. So it led to the weird S-bend that's just up the way, I think. No. That's right over there, actually. That's Slop Ridge. This is Slop Ridge right here. It doesn't look like much anymore, but it was a lot more than I wanted to do originally. See, we just swung around this way to get up and over it. But this is the steepest grade on the mainline Gilson Eastern so far. It's 0.8%. Even though it's relatively short. One of the things I might do, because now that I'm thinking about this, and now I'm predetermining things, but one of the things I might want to do out of Mason's Landing is go up. Get up a bit. And build, maybe another small town, name it Norton Heights after a similar place on the New Haven, and then you have an area where you have a relatively steep for the railroad and relatively long grade. I could even make it a couple miles of 1%, and that's not much, but it's a lot more than this railroad is used to so far. I don't know how much the grades on the New Haven were that were the problems, but they were things that the I-5s were specifically designed around, saying, we need to take a 1,000-ton train at 60 miles an hour up these hills. Baldwin get to work. And they came up with the I-5s, which were pretty impressive Hudsons. They weren't the best Hudsons, but they were good Hudsons. So, looking to emulate some of this railroad off of the New Haven just as much as I have the Pennsy and the New York Central. I know, I'm building Penn Central the railroad, but not really. I should be looking into some of these pretty significant height changes. Maybe I can get it up to, what are we at now, like 16? I can get it up to 50, or I can get it up to 60. I don't think that's outrageous. I think, let's see, what is Slop Ridge at? It's at 18, yeah. And so then we come back down to 10 or so. In a relatively short span. But if I wanted to, I could come out of here. Oh, hey, the wagon's back. Need a new muffler on that thing. I could come out to here, and then I could start climbing. Which would make a lot of sense for the area, and it would also force me a little further inland, and then we would get the farms and stuff that we wanted to build. So anyway, let's come over here and do the thing that we've been talking about since the beginning. And it's going to just be grass for the next probably 20 minutes or so. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but Madison is here, so maybe we can talk about some things. Maybe I can tell that story that I wanted to tell. If it gets to like the last 15 minutes, and it becomes clear to me that I'm not going to, that she's too busy, then I will just tell the story verbatim, or, the detailed version. But I would want her to be here with me, because it was totally a moment where I was like, wow, thanks. And now I can, bust her chops about it live on the air. Sort of live. Not really live, but live enough. It doesn't go on without editing, so it's effectively as live as it's going to be. So let's get this way with the grass. Let's get this way with the grass. Okay, so we also have the oil place. We've got to deal with that. But... oh, crap. There we go. There we go. I want to get it up to the main highway at least, and then we can start going along the main highway. And then, I don't know. I guess we'll go down that way first. because that's towards the edge of the map, or the edge of the map that we've actually done work on. Like, we've done work on what's on the other side of that edge. The thing that's my issue... Here's my big red dot. This is like the big storm on Jupiter that is apparently not going to be there in a few decades. Or something. I think I heard something about that. Like, the storm is going to collapse. Climate change, guys. On Jupiter. I don't want to, like, start from this side, even though I did go all the way to over there on the other, on the rail line. Sort of sloppily, but I did it. I would like to work from that edge, so it's sort of like a large sweeping brush instead of the golden spike approach, I guess. Because I like to be able to work on things in order. I do like to work on... See, order is a relative term, I guess. Because I do like to work on the towns first. And so I did do... I guess I did Lionhead too, but I did Adams pretty much... I guess I did Adams behind everything else, but... I did Adams, I did Mason's Landing and Mason Valley. I did both of those ahead of everything else. And... what's the other thing? I guess I didn't touch Doe Cliff at all. But yeah, Lionhead, Mason's Landing, and Mason Valley. As well as... no, Treadway I did later. Treadway Beach, I didn't really touch that much until we were pretty much already past it with scenery, I think. But that's, those towns that are off the right-of-way, I end up spending more time thinking about than doing. Because it feels like they're so inconsequential that I don't want to sit down and do them during an episode, because they're just out there. And then I think about, well, how much effort do I really want to put into these things? Do I want them to be really nice? Do I want them to be kind of okay? Not have all the detail that they otherwise could because because we're far away from them? What things do I want to skimp on? And then how do I actually want this town to look? How do I want it to look when somebody actually comes up to it and goes, hey, there's a town up here? I don't want it to be like, oh, there's clearly a crappy town here. Adams is never going to be the nicest town on the map. It's not. I won't say it was hasty, because even though I did do it in a relatively short amount of time, there was a lot of thought that went into it beforehand, and a lot of, you could almost call it research, but, yeah. It was just like a looking around in rural areas with similar towns and going, okay, what's here and how is it organized? Which, I didn't really want to model it after the real Adams. Even though the real Adams is not a bad candidate, but I wanted to model it after some of these really tiny towns that are in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, that you really got to wonder why they're there or why they're still there. And in this era, maybe it makes a little bit more sense. It is a tourist town, relatively speaking. There are a few people there that commute into Olive to work, or into some of the other towns, like Doe Cliff or Mason Valley to work, because they're not that far away. There are probably even some that work in the coal mine here at Lionhead. But by and large, the industries there in town are service industries. There's the relatively famous museum for the family that lived there. And there are the campsites and the caves that are there. Which, that's the reason anybody goes to Adams. It probably wouldn't exist if it weren't for those interesting geological features that keep people coming up there, because otherwise nobody would go. It's just not that special a town. It doesn't have any rail connections. It really doesn't have any industry. The only thing it could possibly get is logging, or maybe limestone mining, or quarrying, I guess. What's the difference between a mine and a quarry? So yeah, that's... When I was writing the history of atoms, I really kind of had to think. And I feel like calling out tourism as like, oh, this is why the town is here, is sort of a cop-out. Because you can do that about anything. It just be like, yes, there are attractions here and people come. That is why the town is here. But there was a certain point in time where any attraction was an attraction, like a serious attraction. I mean, we're not quite at the roadside America phase of like the 60s and 70s and 80s. You know, the age of the great American road trip. But we are at a point in time where people that had the means, and a lot of people had the means, would go and see a lot of really interesting things. I mean, we're past the Gilded Age, so certain resorts and stuff aren't as coveted as they once used to be, because it's like, either they're old hat or they're way too expensive for most people, and the crowd that they had catered to is kind of gone. Like the Ranger Lakes, for example, is a good thing to point out. But at a place like this, where you are relatively close to some population centers, and you're basically within a train ride of a pretty major city, or a train ride and a half. Oh, that's what I need. I need a bus terminal. I need a bus terminal in Olive, and I didn't build one. Oh, where could I put one now? Because I feel like we need that. I wanted there to be one in Olive, and I didn't even, like, now I want there to be one in Olive, because I just figured, hey, what if, you know, to compete with the VMR, Olive is running a bus service from their station downtown to Adams. You know, because the tourists will come in on trains from the city and take the bus up instead of taking their competitors' trains. You know, how about that? How about it? That's a good thought. Too bad I didn't think of that before, because I would have totally done the invisible track and made a bus terminal. If you guys still want me to do that, I will. Just say the word and I'll spend some time putting it together. But it is retreading steps, and it takes away from the forward progress that we're currently making to redo an area of the old map. So, or redo an older area of the map. So, I'm not trying to discourage people from doing that. I'm just saying that it's not like you're going to get an extra episode out of it. If you want to see me get done and move on to 2019, you can try to steer my progress. But if you don't mind if it takes another week, then that's no big deal, because I certainly don't mind. Yeah, I can't wait, but it's not the end of the world if I don't. It's not like I'm sitting here staring at my Christmas gifts waiting to unwrap them, because I haven't finished this section of Tolbrand yet. In fact, I've got my Christmas gift right here. So, also don't think there's only one left in that, because that was kind of a pitiful sound. They're all stuck together. They must have got warm. So, and we're almost done with this, and we've got like 10 minutes left. What are we going to do for 10 minutes? Sit here and twiddle our thumbs? I am going to go look at Olive real quick, because I want to think about this. I do actually want to think about this. I'll look at it when I get done with this grass over here, because the grass is important. Alright. Let's just do our best to wrap this up quickly. I still have to do the shrubs. I have to do the shrubs on the other grass, the stuff that's closer to the tracks. And I don't know where I want it to end. I don't know what distance away from the tracks I want it to end. The other thing I have to do is I need to do grass along the dirt road. But I can worry about that later, because it's a dirt road. I love my road networks, but it really does make me do more work than I need to. Because nobody's going to look over here for grass. There. Okay. Next section. Only as far as I can reach. One chunk at a time. And I don't want to, you know, I think it's inefficient to go along and do one strip, and then come back and do the second strip, and come back and do the third strip. This seems like the most effective thing to me. It's the least moving of the camera that I think I can do. And only then am I not placing grass, so minimal camera movement equals a maximal grass place time and minimal completion time. What was that? Minimal completion time for the grass area. The grass stuff. So, yeah. We're still all the way over here, though. Ugh. So much grass, so much highway. What have I done to myself, anyway? The highway's absurd. Why did I make a highway? Who needs roads, anyway? Tear them up, turn them into rails. Hey, you. Are you gonna sit with me? That doesn't answer my question. What is that? Why are you putting stuff down my shirt? Is that money? I can't get it. Alright, there we go. Why would you do that to me? Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Thank you.
Your pocket is really small.
What?
Your back pocket.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's been like that all day because I don't put anything in that pocket. Nobody said anything, so I guess I'm fine. Not that there was anybody really to say anything, it was just me and Dan in the office. That's what I get, I guess. Oh, crap. Hey, before you sit down, there's stuff in the washing machine. Can you put it in the dryer for me? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Bouncy. Okay. The whole world knows now. Oh, great, I wasted time. I wasted time fishing money out of the back of my shirt. It's so unpleasant. It's like something cold, but it's not cold. It's just really, really germy. Alright, so... Grass, grass, grass. Grass, 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 grass. Anyway, you know what? I have a call out for everybody here. I need some help. So I bought a new Bluetooth speaker for my wagon because the radio was busted. Despite Dean's best efforts to find me every single part on the planet that I could need for that car, that I do need for that car, which, goddamn, he did a good job. I am thoroughly impressed, and if I had like an extra $200, not the 200 now sitting beside me, an extra $200, then I would be buying all of those parts and probably installing some of them myself because they're fairly straightforward. I need my dome light to stop rattling, and I would like my my visors to clip on like they're supposed to, because right now they do not, or one of them doesn't anyway. So, you know, these are all really ancillary, not useless, but inexpensive and relatively easy parts. You know, relatively unimportant parts. And I was just like, oh, I need this. This is broken. You know, in like the span of a 3-hour drive, he identified like 5 different things and found me parts for them. So, goddamn, Dean. Mad respect. I might talk about that again on the podcast, which should be recorded within the next couple days. Because finally Christmas has died down, and finally we're all getting a break, so that means I need to drag everyone in for 3 hours and force them to do my bidding and read things. Read my scripted podcast. Not really, though. Alright. How much more do I want to do here? Because I can go this way with it. We've got another 7 minutes or so. Also, why do I look so quiet? Like, I'm looking... Whoops. Uh-oh. Oh, I almost X'd trains out. That would have been bad. My waveforms look kind of quiet. I should use, like, a leveler. I mean, I can do a pass... Oh, I didn't last time. I said I would, and I didn't. I meant to do a pass with a leveler last time after... or maybe the time before that. And I said I would do it, and then I totally whiffed. I totally forgot. So, my bad. I hope it sounds okay anyway. I'm trying to stay up on the microphone, but sometimes I get like an urge to lean back and stretch a little bit, and then I start doing it like that, and then there's like a point of no return. where I'm leaning back and it's game over, man. Alright, so we'll get up to over here, and that'll be that. I'm not going to do anything really fancy up here unless you can see it from the tracks, which I don't think you can. What is that? Oh, let's see. We don't have a blue one on the main line, right? Yeah. Yay, do that. It ends with Hanukkah. So, I forgot what I was saying. She asked me to pick out a candle for the menorah. Because apparently I'm in charge of that now. It's my way of participating in the Jewish faith. Playing color wheel. What's wrong with your candles? No, I said playing color wheel. I said that's my job. Yeah, okay. I have it on tape. Alright, I'm going to go back and edit that to make sure I say... Just kidding. It's not a lame color wheel. I'll admit that I was 100% suckered and I thought... Not that she said anything, but I thought that the colors were normal. Like that was the Hanukkah thing, like you're supposed to burn these colors of candle and you're supposed to replace the same colors every night, because that's what she was doing. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, that's really neat. And I didn't get the chance to dig into what I thought the symbolism of that would have meant. But I'm sitting here thinking about it, and then she just says to my mom or whatever, like, yeah, and did you, or to me, and other people were there, do you notice that I'm replacing the same colors every night? And I was like, oh, that's just a you thing? She's like, yeah, it is. I was flabbergasted. I was hook, line, and sinker in on, and the colors, like, if I ever got the chance to properly explain it to somebody when Madison isn't there to, say all the interesting stuff that I don't know, other than they're candles and you light them in this order. Oh, right, I was going to put a graveyard here. Well, we still need grass. I would have totally been like, yeah, and you replace the colors every night. You use the same colors. No, you don't. That's a Madison thing. I'm a dummy. Alright, we need the shrubs. We need the shrubs. Shrubs. Scrubs. I want to get maybe up to the power plant, and that's... A power plant? This is not a power plant. Up to the coal mine. And that, I think, is all that I need to / want to do. Although, going this way along the highway would be a good thing, too. And maybe I'll just keep it on this side of the highway to make my life a little easier. I definitely want to wrap some around in here. Maybe just this quadrant, and I won't do that side. Obviously, because we haven't done the grass up that way yet. But, whatever. Alright. More of this. Oh, thank God. I thought I canceled the recording again by accident. I would have... I might have pooped myself if I saw that had happened. Get me my brown trousers. Alright. I do want to do this over here, as close to the track, or, as close to the tracks as this area is. You should be able to look through the woods and see some lines of shrubs at the edges of the woods. I mean, realistically speaking, this would be all over the place. You would have all this growth, and then in swampy areas you'd have some different stuff, and some briars, and etc. That is really red, isn't it? And, I've dealt with those in real life, but not that that's an accomplishment by any means. They suck. But this this organization of stuff is really just a, what's the word? It's an illusion. It's to make people think that the forest is thicker and deeper, and that I've actually spent all that time putting shrubs and grass throughout the entire thing. Which I obviously did not do. So, alright, we're in the last half an hour. Hopefully, we will make it through the tree placing portion of the show unscathed. Alright, tree time. It's like tea time, except, you know. Alright, so, I've said before that I think this forest is getting a little thin. So I'm going to try to pick a denser patch like that to use. Oh, whoops. And picking a rectangular patch means I have a little bit more control over what I'm doing. But it also means that my rotation gives me a little bit of a weird pattern instead of like just being clean. Oops. Yeah, along the edge I don't need to be super conservative with where I'm putting my brush. I can just sort of drop it anywhere. Because it's not like we're going to run out of trees. Alright, there we go. There we go. Something else I did this past weekend. You know what? That's a Terminus podcast story. There's no reason for me to talk about Dean's Rhode Island foamy adventure when A, he's not here, and B, it's not the podcast. So, because that is something I'm going to / want to talk about on there. Where should I go to? Maybe this line would be an appropriate place to stop. Yeah. Let's just go to there, because for now, anyway, there's no reason for me to get nice and tight against what I'm trying to build. Or what I haven't finished yet. The other thing is, there's really no reason for me to not just bowl over this road with trees and grass, because A, no one's going to see it. B, I got to come back and clear out the trees anyway. That's the order in which these things go. I don't need to spend all this time deliberating, oh, where do I put the next thing of trees and grass? I can just put it right on top of everything. I'm still trying to leave holes, because that way I remind myself, yeah, there is a road there that you need to take care of, you dingus. So at least I'll see them from orbit and be like, oh, right, let me fix that. But in general, there's no need for me to worry about covering that up, because there isn't any texture there for me to cover. I'm not losing anything other than a little bit of maybe time and organization by just covering them up. And I think it's gained back in, well, the amount of time spent not deliberating over where to put the next thing. This is what I don't want, though. I don't want to be necessarily putting stuff over the tracks if I can help it. Not that it'll mess anything up, but it does make more work for me. I can put it over there, because it's kind of a wide area. The advantage of doing that, though, is now I have areas where I have extra trees, and so instead of adding more, I can move trees from one area to another, which you guys have seen me do, so it should come as no surprise. But it's like a not strategy. It helps, but it's not something that I came up with to do on purpose. Yeah, so just one chunk at a time, and I'm doing these in relatively small chunks. There's no real reason for me to be doing that, but the piece of forest that I grabbed was this size, and I think that's a good size right now. Also, the density of the piece of forest that I grabbed was good. That was my main concern. I don't need to rotate it every time. You guys, I'm sure, are noticing the times where I don't rotate it. Because some areas are really just better done one way, and I'm not going to go way out of my way to make sure that, oh, I do a north-south, and then I do an east-west, and then I do a north-south. I'm just sort of spinning it as I go and not going crazy with it. Something we can do is get all along the edge of Lionhead here. You know, up to here, I guess. Or so. Because we don't necessarily want to waste time. Oh, she's making cookies, I bet. Or she's heating up something. We got some Star Wars cookies. To come back to Star Wars, we found Star Wars cookies at the market. And we were going to make them for Christmas. And then we totally forgot, and they stayed in the fridge along with another dessert that was supposed to be put out for the Christmas party. The Christmas party is ending. We open the fridge, and it's like, oh, that's where that went. That's right. But we had so much food that there was nothing wrong with leaving one or two things out. It's not like people were starving. And we got a lot of nice compliments about the house and about, you know, the way it's set up and the party and everything. And we got nice nice texts the next day about, you know, how good of a time people had. And so I'm really glad that things went as well as they did. And it's kind of a shame that I lost my mind afterward. It was like, oh, good, it's over. I can go nuts now. Sometimes you get those moments. But it's not something to ignore, like I said. Everybody needs somebody. No, I just said the thing that the Amazon commercial says. That's not what I wanted. I've heard it 1,000,000 times. Everybody's heard it 10,000 times. Nobody needs to hear that song again. Even though it is kind of adorable. But yeah, they're professionals. That will help you. Even when you don't think you're helpable. Or worthy of help. So, look into it. It's my recommendation. From one foamer to another. Should be like a sign-off thing. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do that at the end of the podcast. I should remember. One farmer to another, have a happy new year. That would be a good one. Certainly wouldn't be a bad way to end the podcast. The last podcast of the decade. That's right, we're retiring for 10 years and then we're going to bring it back. Not really, though. So, this is just mind-numbing. I ran out of good stories at the beginning of the podcast, so what am I doing now? After a whole kerfuffle with cars, I have, the two cars are... As time goes on, they gain more problems, and I'm not able to send one off, because we need both of them. Both the Volvos. I should have just bought a third one, really. That would have been the smartest thing to do, probably. Right? Actually, the smartest thing to do would be to invest in a tow truck. So, I missed a spot. I want to talk about these adventures, and I can't. I can't, because I said I wouldn't. But, what did get canceled, what was disappointing, was we were going to do an IKEA trip. With Shelby, who is the voice of Sam, and Tori, who is the voice of Sally. Neither of them had been to IKEA before, and I needed to pick something up at IKEA. Unfortunately, they both had to bail because of a party, among other things, but I was so excited because it was like, oh yes. Taking new people to IKEA is, like, a passion of mine. I don't know. It's such a fun place. It's a little slice of Sweden. Or something. I don't know. They should say that on the sign. That makes it sound like a restaurant, even though there is a restaurant in there. So I guess it's not really wrong. but the meatballs aren't slices. You can slice the meatballs. I guess it's still not wrong. Alright, we did this whole area. Alright, next, this whole area. We're definitely going to need to come in next episode or whatever and trim down the trees. Because it is definitely a mess out there. Hello. Are you going to say hello or stand ominously behind me? I guess the latter. Okay.
Hi.
Nobody's there to say hi back. But they can in the comments.
Hello.
I am just being bored out of my mind placing trees. I wanted to be here because I wanted to tell the story about you throwing me under the bus yesterday in front of my grandfather. Because... Okay, so to preface, there's a place called La Salette Shrine. Which, oh, you know, I talked about this briefly last episode, I think. I talked about La Salette because I was saying how I was giving you the abridged story of Jesus Christ. What?
Jesus, fucking Christ.
Keep it G. We're a family-friendly show.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I am. Mostly. I don't swear.
I'd say PG-13.
I talk about dicks a lot.
PG-13.
I was talking about the girth of my hot dog.
Oh my god. Or the girth of your penis.
Alright, that's on the record now. Are you going to come in here or are you going to sit over there?
I'm gonna sit over here.
Why?
Because I can see you.
Okay, well that's not really what I was asking for, but you can sit over there and stalk me if you want. Alternately, you can watch the video and give me 0.5 cents of ad revenue. It'll help me buy that third Volvo.
That you're not gonna buy? Well,
We-
at this rate, we can sell my car.
Exactly. We'll sell your car, and then get my turbo wagon. Dean sent me a video of restoring a Volvo 740, and I saw the color, and it looked like the one that I was looking at, and I was like, ooh. And then I noticed, no, it's all wrong. It's a sedan, it's a 98, it's not a 90, sorry, it's an 88, not an 86, I was looking at an 86. It doesn't have the double headlights up front, which I wanted. It's not a turbo intercooler, but it is a GLE, so it has a lot of the extra options and stuff. I don't know actually what that entails at all, but it's supposed to be some nice stuff. Allegedly nice stuff. It's not a special order like my old car. Which I said my old car being the one that I owned the longest and not the oldest one. People see the antique sometimes, or they see the wagon and are like, oh, you got an antique.
You're going off track.
I know I am. People see the wagon and they're like, oh, you got an antique. And I'm like, I do. And I've got another car. Oh, no, sorry. Backwards. They see the car with the antique plate, which is the 94. They say, you've got an antique. And I say, yeah, and this isn't my daily driver. I've got another one that I daily drive. It's older. And just the confused expression that crosses people's faces. But yeah. I mean, the car Dean was showing wasn't for sale, but I was like, ooh, look at that. I want my Volvo wagon. Oh, my other Volvo wagon. The 240 doesn't like short trips. She gets angry. And so, while I've always been able to trust her outside of the state, it's the inside the state part where she starts acting up. And because of that, I wanted another car to use as a daily commuter driver. And I wanted one that makes commuting a little bit more fun, because I'm experiencing a midlife crisis at 23. So, the wagon I was looking at was the turbo intercooler, 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds, the whole 9 yards, look gorgeous. What's up? It's 15 minutes or so. Are you making the cookies?
Yeah.
I knew it. Oh, damn it. Never mind. Yeah. So I was all excited about this car. Obviously, I didn't have the funds, nor the lack of sanity enough to actually purchase the thing and try to get it here. There were two. There was one in Salt Lake City, of all places, which I assume is in better shape than one that I would get here. But there was another one down in, like, right outside of D.C. somewhere. And that one was, I mean, it was relatively closer. It was a southern car, so they don't get a lot of snow and a lot of salt, whereas Salt Lake City does get snow. And that was tempting. You know what, I'm just going to do this. F it. Salt Lake City does get snow, so it makes the cars there rust a little more. I'm not sure if they use salt, honestly. There are some places that use sand on the roads instead of salt, and that's kind of better in a way, but it doesn't actually melt the ice, it just gives you more traction. So in some ways it's better, in some ways it's worse. It's better for, like, environmental reasons, it's better for the cars, for the most part, except for the windshields, because you get little stones kicked up on the windshields. I've heard that is an issue that happens a lot in places with sanded roads instead of salted roads. But Rhode Island has the nation's saltiest roads, according to a recent study or whatever. I saw the article and I was like, oh jeez. So, clearly a Rhode Island car, that's not what you want. You want one of these cars from other places. I think they sand the roads in Michigan instead of salt them. At least in some areas. I know in Canada they use sand most of the time. So, I don't know. I was looking at these cars, I was like, foaming, or, the drool was coming from my mouth. Madison was just sitting next to me with a little tissue trying to dab it away. Not really, but could have been. And I told you guys the fatal mistake she made where she said a deal. And I was like, oh, I'll take it. Because, why not? I'll take it. I'll take a third Volvo, whatever it takes. That should go on a poster. Whatever it takes. To get my turbo wagon. I just want something that makes commuting a little more fun. I want to be able to step on the gas and go vroom and go speed. Because it's not about your top speed, even though the cars that I have do not have a good top speed either. It's about your acceleration, and those are fun. That's what makes it fun. To get on the highway and step on the gas and go up to 60 very quickly. That's what I want. That's what you want to see. Because when the speed limit is 55, going up to 60 very fast is about as far as you're going to go. Alright, so put this. I'm going to leave some spots unfinished, of course. Over here, I'm probably going to leave untouched because of the other road. But I am going to get the edges along here as best I can. And the little gaps in between, and all the other gaps in between. And including the little dots that I missed. Alright. So, yeah, this is why I like comments. When I'm running down towards the end of the show, I like to address them at the beginning so people see them. But when I'm running down to the end of the show, and it's like, oh, I've kind of run out of things to talk about. What have I covered this week? Well, I've covered my deteriorating mental state. I've covered Christmas, which was neat. New Year's is coming. I can't really talk about that. It's going to be... it's not like because there's a secret or anything involved. It's because it hasn't happened yet. What else has happened in the last 2 weeks? I'm finna get Halo Master Chief Collection on PC. I'm super excited about that, actually. I got a couple Steam gift cards that are going to facilitate that. Everyone should get Unrailed because it's hilarious and awesome. And I do have another module to review that I have not gotten to yet. It is Milky's, and I am excited to include it, but I have not gotten to it yet. So, oh well. It is going to wait a little while. Yeah, I'm reviewing them separately than regular route reviews. They're just happening as they come. All modules are going to get a review. But how quickly I get those reviews done is... oh boy, that's another matter entirely. Let's see. Can I... oh, you know what? I can push stuff into the lake. Rake in the lake. Yeah, there we go. Now the town is almost here. And we have a much... look at how much more is done. We got from here to here, more or less. And there are more areas that we could do. I mean, I can do in here now. And I can do right here. Because this is good enough. This section that we have to play with, this little rectangle. And if I play my cards right, it will look pretty good, and then I can grab an even smaller section to fill in the other areas. Because it's important that we fill in all the areas. We don't want to leave little gaps here and there. Alright. Can I get in here? Yeah, actually, that went pretty well. Alright, so we do need to fill in that middle part there, but everything else pretty much is taken care of. We're going to have to come by here and clear off the trees, although we can start doing that now. There's the highway, you can see that, and there's the road and rail. So... alright, just show me what I... okay, it starts here. It starts with 1. Come on. It's not even showing me the grass over here. It's given up on this area. It's like, stop doing this. Don't do this to yourself. Go play a rewarding game. There we go. But I like to hate myself. So I will continue playing trains, except for the therapy. That's going to help me not hate myself. That's good. Alright, move that stuff over, move that stuff over. Yeah, let's just get the stuff out of the river. We'll make that our top priority, because we can do texturing in the river while we're here. And the lake. The lake can get some texture too. The trees that are in the lake I probably should delete instead of just moving them, because we already have a lot of trees on the shoreline there, because I did actually get a pretty dense section of forest to copy paste, which is a good thing. So... oh, there's a hole here. There we go. Hello. Be careful with that. Yeah, that's not being careful with that. Yeah, I don't want to start piling too many trees in that little strip on the edge of town. I feel like once you get...
you need to trim that.
Trim?
The little tiny tree there.
This guy?
It's sticking out, it looks weird.
It does. It's because it's on low graphics. They look... I got
The fact that it was sticking out into the water is what looked weird.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah. That's what I'm doing. I'm coming through, I'm moving trees out of the river and off the track. So she's in and out. God, those cookies smell delicious. I didn't have dinner, so that's definitely enhancing that. What? Oh, you want me to eat all the cookies? Oh, you said you're making them for me. I don't know what else that could mean. I'm eating those cookies. It's gonna happen. She's gonna turn her back and bam. It's like Santa Claus, except he doesn't leave any gifts behind. My gift is an upper decker. God, that's bad. If you don't know what that is, don't ask your parents. Ask Urban Dictionary. Here we go with this again. Get the trees out of the river. Cat's gonna have a little salami. Alright. Yeah, there we go. Over the bridge, which, I mean, we could slide some short birches underneath the bridge, but you'd think they would keep that clear. Oh, and there's track under here, isn't there? I'm piling more trees onto the stretch of track. We need to get this out. We need to get this clear. Which, I mean, this area would be even more clear than usual because it is brand new track. Or at least relatively speaking. See, it's the 50s. I haven't written the history of the VMR yet. The closest I've gotten to it is writing its creation in the 1890s, I think. Or just shortly before. And the references to their takeover of the Everett Lake. Or, the references to them in the saga of the Everett Lake. Which, are important, but they really don't give the full picture of what the Volga Mountains Railroad is and was doing. Alright. I think I'm going to have to clear these because we definitely got better with the dense forest. Oh, I thought I crashed for a second. I didn't, though. I'm still here. I'm holding on. And my hope will never die. Once upon a time, so here's a white whale for you. I found that meme song, My Hope Will Never Die. It's like a dubstep song or whatever. Somebody made a lyric typographical version of it, except it included all of the sounds in the song as lyrics. And it was it was impressive, but at the same time it was also just so funny. And I can't find it again, and I think it might have been taken off of YouTube or something, and you would hope that it got reposted somewhere, or reposted on YouTube. But I have not been able to find it again, and it is such a white whale for me. So if anybody knows what I'm talking about, if anybody has seen this video and has it saved, please let me know, because it's like not like a life dream come true, but like oh my god, you found it. It's real. It did actually exist. It wasn't some sort of fever dream from the early days of the internet. Which it wasn't that early days. It was not long ago. I mean, it was several years ago. But relatively speaking in my life, it was not long ago. That's really nice. Although, did you... Ooh, just put it down there. Oh, right here. Thank you. Now my bread's gonna be soggy though. She made me a plate with meatballs and some of the chicken parm sliders. Now I can't reach over it because it's really hot. I need to move the camera and I can't reach over it. This is a mistake. Anyway, we're gonna finish this episode without moving the camera at all. But she put the chicken parm sliders in the sauce, which is great in theory, but I don't like soggy bread. I don't like soggy bread. I don't like Gavin. I showed her and her brother the play pals of Goose Game, and I cracked up again when the first thing Michael does is put the sandwich in the lake, and Gavin just like, what? He just like starts retching instinctively because the sandwich is in the lake. It's so funny. I mean, it's funny how those thoughts can get us, It's obviously not something he wants to think about, and the moment he not even experiences actual wet bread, but just sees a sandwich getting wet, the first thing his mind goes to is his disgust for wet bread. And it's completely overwhelming to him. Imagine if we were trying to do, like, exposure therapy for Gavin and wet bread. How funny would that be? That's an RT life in the making right there. Someone should convince him to try that. Just see if you can get him to not puke. I think there were one or two Rooster Teeth podcasts where he did actually throw up on the show. because of something they were doing. I remember there being a live podcast where there was something that they were, like, taking turns smelling, and him and Bernie were having the worst time with it, and then it was revealed that it wasn't actually anything super insidious. It was, like, they had been told it was really disgusting and old or whatever, and it actually wasn't. It was just, like, normal milk in a container. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm vaguely recalling that. The guys on Tip of My Rooster are really helpful with that. It's like Tip of My Tongue, except with just Rooster Teeth content. Get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. I really am pruning this down. Oh no, that was one too many. Or two too many. Alright, so next time we can continue doing that, and we have... This means we have scenery all the way to Lionhead. That is a serious milestone, actually, because I can now have the Lionhead turn as a runnable train and, like, put out a scenario for this. I could do it right now, but I'm not going to do that. Anyway, leave your comments below, questions, concerns, all that, and hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you in a week. This is the Admiral. Oops, I need to push button. This is the Admiral, signing off.